VAT do?
VAT, it drives up the price of everything people buy. It's a very high sales tax, a federal sales tax. What it does is it taxes the value added to a product at every stage. So if we say, okay, we go dig up the iron ore, and so the act of digging the ore out of the ground, that makes it more valuable because it's now accessible. So the difference in the value of the ore in the ground and the value of the ore dug out, that difference is value added and is taxed. And then the iron ore is converted into iron or steel, and that is another enhancement of value. And that value is taxed. And then the steel is converted into products, cars, steel beams, whatever, sheet metal.
Then it's packaged, then it's shipped, and then it's sold.
It's taxed at every level. And, you know, the value-added taxes in Europe are 22%. They may be higher now. And so that then becomes an enormous sales tax. That's why cars cost so much in Europe. That's why washing machines and dryers and appliances and refrigerators and stoves, they all have this tax.
And fuel.
And fuel. So it's a way of suppressing the purchasing power and living standards of the people.
And then meanwhile, if China and India and others don't have a VAT, won't that drive the few industries we have left out of the country?
Well, you see, the value-added tax is rebated on exports, but it's applied to imports. So a country that has a value-added tax in a trade situation has an advantage over one that doesn't. Because when Europe exports these products to us, they rebate that tax to everybody.
But we don't have any industry really left, as you've said, so that isn't good.
And we don't have a value-added tax, and so it doesn't come in taxed. But if it goes from one value-added country to another, when it leaves, it's rebated, but when it gets to the other country, it's charged.
All right. Doctor, I want to move quickly through some other subjects, but going back to overall taxes, because you wanted to come on today, and we're honored to have you. Specifically, other points you'd like to make about the income tax, and I want to ask you, where do you see all this leading? Because, I mean, clearly, this is a vertical integration, a criminal consolidation. They have no appearances of even slowing down, only accelerating. How do you see this unfolding?
Well, the people, and the vast majority of Americans, will find a sharp decline in their living standard, and there's no way around it, because not only are the jobs, the best jobs, disappearing, but all of these taxes will, particularly a value-added tax, will seriously reduce their purchasing power. If you had a 20% value-added tax, for example, it means that 20% of your purchases that you currently have are wiped out. And so you see a 20% reduction in your real income.
Expanding on that, the trick again is they've had fake conservatives promoting VAT for almost 2 decades, saying we're going to get rid of the income tax. But now they're saying, oh, no, we're going to have the income tax and the VAT, but don't worry, it'll only be 2%. Well, that's how the federal income tax started.
Right, that's right. As we said earlier in your program today, the reason the income tax amendment passed, the constitutional amendment to permit one, was that the vast majority of states didn't have anybody living in them that had income high enough to be taxed under the original proposal. So sure, once you have, but the same thing happened with state sales taxes. I can remember when the first sales tax was 1%. What are they now? 6, 7, 8. So if it's a 2% value-added tax, it won't be 2% very long. Very quickly rise up, as in Europe. They're now, as I said, they're 20% or more. Now, where all this may end is that the dollar may simply collapse. It may lose its reserve currency role, in which case it will be the end of the evil empire, because the wars won't be, you can't finance them. The only way they can finance all of these wars and all of this military spending is that the dollar is the reserve currency, and we can pay our bills simply by printing money. Nobody else can do that. So if we lose that role, then you will see a collapse in the empire, and you will also see a collapse in living standards, because it would have a similar effect as a value-added tax in reducing people's incomes, because the value of it would fall dramatically, and so all of the imports on which we are dependent would rise in price. And this would also have the effect of reducing Americans' real incomes.
All right.
So for the future, Alex, it's going to be different than the past, when people could look forward to a rising level of income. Now, I'm afraid they'll have to look forward to declining levels of real income.
All right, I want to take a few calls here in the end of this segment and the next with you. We really appreciate you spending time with us. But, you know, we know there's some global organization of this, but it's driven by the greed, the short-term view. But at the UN level, it's a long-term view. But it lends credence to what you're saying, that it's just a bunch of looters and not organized at some point. Because I'm reading in Texas and in Ohio and in Michigan and New Jersey and all over, more than 10 states going bankrupt or on the verge. Some sheriffs and police departments slashing by more than half. Police saying, buy your own guns to protect yourself. As taxes go up, more and more goes to interest on the debt and to corporate welfare, and actual road warrior type scenarios where one county in Ohio that has over 100,000 people will have one cop on duty for every shift from 116 that they had. I mean, we're looking at potential road warrior type collapse.
Could be. It could be. I think most likely, though, the last thing government will let go of are the forces that protect them. And the notion that the police protect the public is probably not correct. The police protect the government. If you think the FBI protects you, you're wrong. Just like the military doesn't protect the people, it protects the government that pays its salary. So I'm not sure that a lot of the gang activity won't come from police, because they're an organized armed force, and people are not organized. And even
that's a key point. They said in Ohio they were going to keep 49 of the 116 deputies, and that now only one would be on patrol for the citizens, the rest out collecting revenue. So now they're admitting, we're here to collect revenue, we're not going to protect you. They actually say that.
That's right. And, you know, they can collect revenues in different way than taxes. They can just shake you down. So who knows, Alex? We don't need to get this far into it. We can't predict what the behavior will be that closely, but we do know that the kinds of restraints that restrained government power are being removed.
Yes.
And we do know that the sort of economy we had that produced rising consumer incomes is being dismantled, and that the more likely prospect is falling consumer income. So you get a mixture of a weaker, poor public and a stronger, less accountable government. And that is enough to make us disturbed and wary when you see the people becoming economically weaker and the government becoming less accountable and more powerful, less restrained by law, by the Constitution. And that is the real dilemma that we're in. Can I hold up my book real quickly?
Absolutely.
This is the latest book I've written, and a lot of people who get motivated to try to learn something about economics, they get a book and they try to read it and they can't. It's full of jargon. It's got equations. It's dense. This book is written like a column for a newspaper, and people can follow it.
You're a great writer, and we've got the book, holding it up on TV ourselves, How the Economy Was Lost, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. I promise to take calls. We're almost out of time. We're going to come back. Quick questions from our callers for Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. We'll be right back.